Hey y'all, so I have been in here retwisting my hair and I decided I'm going to come and do a little story on y'all favorite TJ. So again, if you have joined our YouTube channel, you probably already love TJ. I call him TJ. His dad calls him Trey. His name is Tommy. You probably already love him. If you don't know him, you're probably going to love him. But I am going to go ahead and give y'all some background on our little stink butt. So I basically found out, well, my husband and I, found out that Tommy had some fluid on his brain when I was 4 months pregnant. And my awesome OB, love her to death. She's super duper great. She noticed it in our regular ultrasounds and was kind of like, well, it seems like there's some fluid buildup. We'll give it to 6 months. And then if by 6 months I'm not seeing it go away, then I'll send you to the MFM. And the MFM is the high risk doctor. So 6 months rolls around, boom, still seeing fluid on the brain, actually seeing a little bit more. So she refers us to the MFM. Long story short, with that, we go visit the MFM for the remainder of my pregnancy. And she's kind of just like, yes, we see it, but we really don't know exactly what it is. They offered us the option to do an amniocentesis. I probably am saying that wrong, but yeah, that's where they stick the needle in a pregnant woman's stomach to get DNA from the baby to do testing to try to figure out what it is. But with that, there was a risk of miscarriage. And, my husband and I were kind of like, there's no point in risking it. I have had conversations with people, that say, once you kind of find out there's something going on with the baby, or there may be something going on with the baby, they would prefer to just, have an abortion, which is fair. I'm pro-choice. You do whatever it is that you feel is going to be best for you. But for us, and especially for me, God's going to do what he's going to do. So as far as we were concerned, we're going to have him, whatever he's going to need, he'll be fine. He'll have it. So we didn't do the amniocentesis, and we kind of just monitored the situation. There definitely was a lot of, he's probably going to have poor quality of life, and, he's probably not going to be able to walk, not going to be able to talk, not going to be able to feed himself, just prepare yourself for essentially anything. And it even had gotten to the point where initially his room was upstairs, which I showed you guys in a previous video. His room was upstairs, and I had even gotten to the point where I considered putting him in a room downstairs for mobility's sake. Because again, they're telling us all these things. He may not be able to do this and that, and if he's in a wheelchair, and so I'm just preparing for whatever. Because again, I'm like, whatever he needs, we're gonna provide. So that means I have to move things around. So be it. Long story short, after that, I'm gonna say long story short over and over, and then I'm gonna just keep talking because but have the baby. We had an awesome care team at the hospital, all hands on deck, neurology, neurosurgery, just kind of waiting for Tommy's arrival because we didn't know what to expect and what kind of care he was gonna need. I did end up having a scheduled C-section because his head was growing. So that was the thing too. So he had fluid on his brain, right? The ventricles were enlarged, and he also had a larger than normal head for a baby. So essentially my OB was kind of like, well, you can go to full term, but I don't want you to go too far past full term because his head is growing, and we just want to make sure that he's good, he's safe. So I went to full term, a little bit past full term, had to schedule a C-section. C-section went well. Again, my OB did an awesome job. And all hands on deck. That was fine. He came out crying, doing his thing, moving, fine. I did start nursing in the hospital, so clearly he was able, to feed. So we kind of just went with it. Head was, in normal size, but the way they were making it seem was like it was going to be like some crazy abnormal, like humongous head fetus or something, like, but it actually was pretty normal. And then it did end up getting bigger as he got older. But back to his birth though. So birth was fine. Like I said, I did nurse in the hospital. My milk didn't really come in as quickly as it needed to initially. So he did end up in the NICU for low sugar for like a day, a couple hours really, and then came back to the room and my milk had come in. So we were good there. They did do did they do an MRI? I think they did an MRI at that time to kind of figure out if there was any pressure building up on his brain, because that was another thing. When he was several months old, and I'm horrible with timing, or at least keeping track of time, excuse me. So I don't even remember, I'm sorry, y'all, I just burped, excuse me. I don't even remember when it was that they really started trying to kind of not pressure us, but kind of pressure us to get a shunt, because his head was on the larger side, and they tried to diagnose him with hydrocephalus, which hydrocephalus is when you have pressure on building up on the brain. And usually that comes into play when a child does have a larger head because the pressure is building up, it's, expanding their head. But, we were doing MRIs, and the MRIs weren't really, other than the abnormality from the schizencephaly, which we basically ended up finding out he had a schizencephaly, which is enlarged ventricles in the brain. So that's his formal diagnosis. But again, they tried to diagnose him with hydrocephalus, and we were doing the MRIs, and it just, the structure of his brain wasn't showing any need for pressure to be alleviated, or no pressure was moving anything structurally in his brain. So I caution any parents, and I say this with love, do whatever you feel is going to be best for your child. If the baby needs a shunt, by all means get it. If they need whatever they need, get it. But I caution parents to not be so quick to go with what doctors say first off, because our neurosurgeon was insistent that we get this shunt. Like, yeah, his head is probably going to continue to grow, and you don't want it to wait, and you don't want to wait, and then it end up being like this, drastic growth, and we're rushing to do surgery, and like really trying to kind of convince us to get this shunt. And me and my husband were definitely kind of like, it's not really given medical necessity, and we're very big on like not doing anything to his body or to him that's not really medically necessary. So we were really hesitant on getting it, and I'm glad, because there came a time where his head had grown fairly significantly for the size of his body, and he was having a hard time lifting his head up on his own. So, we did start PT and things like that, but we can talk about that another time. So, my husband and I kind of talked about it, and we have finally agreed, okay, we'll go ahead and do the shunt if that's going to alleviate the size of his head, essentially, because still we're not really seeing anything that says there's pressure building up on the brain, right? So literally, the day we go in, we end up, I won't even tell the whole story, but we end up going to the ER because something ended up happening with insurance and it was taking too long. So the neurosurgeon was kind of like, well, you can just go through the ER and then he'll get in quicker. When we went through the ER, they were like, oh, well, no, he actually ordered the MRI. We did an MRI first, just one last to be sure and see whether we need to actually get this shunt. And thank God we did, because the neurosurgeon ended up coming down and was kind of like, yeah, I'm looking at the MRI and I'm going to be honest, I'm not really seeing any difference from the previous MRIs, which essentially says, there's no pressure causing any shift or change in his brain function. His brain structure, which means he highly likely doesn't have hydrocephalus. So he was kind of like, I can still do the shunt if you want to, or you guys can walk out of here right now and then we can just continue. Sir, that's what we wanted to do in the first place, but you kind of pressed this issue and, had us a little worried and nervous, and yeah, we held off for a while and, ultimately felt like, okay, yeah, maybe let's go, but God don't play about his people, okay? Let me make that clear. So yeah, my baby didn't end up getting the shunt. He got a big old head though. I'm sure y'all see his head. And some people actually think he has like dwarfism because his head is so big, but he just has a big head. But the hydrocephalus ended up being rolled out. We even went as far as to going to another neurosurgeon for a second opinion, and he specialized in hydrocephalus, and he was just kind of like, yeah, no, he doesn't have it. So that was it for the hydrocephalus ruling. So we kind of left that there. He's just continued with the schizencephaly. Boom, right? So now we have schizencephaly and, I don't have anything next to that. Now we have schizencephaly and, what was next? Schizencephaly, we have our developmental delay. So we started PT, we started OT, and we also, I don't think we started speech until he was a little bit older. So we started PT first. He started PT really early, probably around maybe 6 months, 6 or 7 months. And he's been with his PT since. He has the same PT. Shout out Miss Tasha. She's like his fifth mom. He's 3, about 3.25 now. And she has been with him since before he was 1. And she has been supporting and loving on him. But we started with PT primarily for the issues with lifting up his head and things like that. Now he's currently at PT 3 times a week, OT 2 times a week, and speech 2 times a week, supposed to be. But insurance got funny after the age of 3, and that's a whole nother story for another day, because don't even get me started with that. But shout out TRICARE, because they do take care of my baby. So we are blessed there. But so we started PT, OT, and speech. I kind of did, you know what? I'll save that for another video. I was going to go into his therapies and different programs and things and resources, but I'll just do a resource video for that one. So we'll stick to kind of what Tommy is dealing with now for this video. But yeah, so we did PT for a little bit, and then we ended up adding OT, and then at some point we start in speech as well. And then I want to say he may have been 2.5, and we started noticing these jerks, right? I noticed them, and they were real kind of subtle, but they were just and then he would just kind of go back to doing what he was doing. Then his PT noticed it, Miss Tasha. Again, I'm gonna just call her Mama Tasha. Mama Tasha noticed it, and she brought it, to my attention as well. And I was saying yeah, I've been noticing the same thing actually. So at that point, I had reached out to his doctor. Was it his pediatrician, or I think it was his pediatrician at that point, to kind of let them know what we were seeing. And oh no, it was his neurologist. So he had a neurologist from the time he was born, right? So he had neurosurgery, he had neurology, and they're not synonymous, because neurosurgery actually does surgery on the brain, whereas neurology just kind of focuses on brain abnormalities and if there's medication that needs to be, had. So he had a neurologist, and we kind of put them on the back burner because there was nothing really going on. But, the neurologist was kind of we'll keep contact, kind of check back in if you're noticing anything. So once I started noticing some of the jerking, that's when I reached back out to neurology. like, hey, this is what I'm seeing. Like, I'm kind of wondering if we should be concerned, da da da. So we get with neurology, and that's when we started doing EEGs. I probably need to cut this. That's when we started doing EEGs to test and see what was going on. Like, was he having seizures? Like, kind of what's happening. So we did, I think it was just an hour long EEG that first time. And did we catch anything? I don't remember if we caught anything. Y'all, I be long-winded, so let me not get too far into detail. But long story short, though, we ended up doing several EEGs, and then ultimately finding seizure activity. That was it. The first EEG we saw seizure activity. And then we ended up doing a 24-hour EEG, and that's when we really started noticing actual seizure activity. So that's how he ended up getting the diagnosis, essentially, of epilepsy. And then we didn't get to the Lennox-Gastaut diagnosis until recently, probably in the last year or so. So the first time we saw seizure activity, he was having focal seizures, according to the EEG. He was having focal seizures, and then over time, he ended up picking up several other seizures, which is how we ended up with the Lennox-Gastaut diagnosis. Because with Lennox-Gastaut, it's multiple types of seizures. Like, it's not just one type of seizures. So he experiences, 3 types of seizures: focal, myoclonic, atonic, dyscognitive. Don't quote me on which one is which. I just know that he's had these different types of seizures, but we call them informally. He has a jerk seizure, which he just kind of jerks forward, and then he like smiles, his eye might roll a little bit, and then he kind of goes back to doing what he's doing. He has a drop seizure. And a drop seizure is when he literally will just like drop. If he's standing, he's gonna fall and fold. If he's sitting, he's gonna fall and fold. And that is why he has the helmet, because we started with the jerks, right? That's what we first noticed. And then the drops started popping in, and that's when he was hitting his head. Like, he would fall and his head would literally hit the ground. So he had knots on his head, and we were like, oh no, we need to do something about that to protect his head. So that's why we started with the helmet. So that's why you see him with his big blue helmet, just to protect his head, because he will fall. And then he also has, I believe it's the dyscognitive seizures, where he kind of just stares off, like loses awareness. And he's still there. Sometimes he's still moving his hands or something like that, but he's just kind of staring off into space. So I've gotten used to kind of trying to navigate what as far as the dyscognitive, when he's actually just not paying you any attention versus when he's probably having a seizure. With the drops as well, like being able to tell when he's actually has had a drop seizure. They're very quick though. None of his seizures so far have been longer than 15 minutes. And I think when we think about seizures, we think like the convulsive type of seizures. He doesn't experience that. These are the type of seizures that he does experience though. So it's been a learning experience, and it's been an educational experience, especially for like his teachers at daycare. And now he's in the PPCD program in the school district. Again, I can talk about those things in like a resource type of video. Look at me getting off task. But yeah, so, being able to really navigate the seizures, as I mentioned in the previous video, we're now on technically 3 different medications. He is on medical grade CBD oil. He is on Keppra, and he is on clobazam. And he started on Keppra. That was the first medication we went to. And then we ended up, I think once we saw the drop seizures is when we ended up adding in the clobazam. And then when we did one of the EEGs, I think it was last year, when we started seeing, I guess, different waves or like brain waves seizure like type waves. I think they call them low waves or something like that. That's when he qualified for the Epidiolex, which is the medical grade CBD oil. So he's on those as of now, and then also the keto diet. And then we started the keto diet primarily because even with all the medications, we were still seeing seizures. So essentially, and again, this is in line with the Lennox-Gastaut syndrome, where it's one of those epilepsies that's kind of like it's resistant to medications. So that's when they add in the I'm sorry, I cut my hair the other day, so don't look at me crazy that I'm cutting my hair while I'm doing this. This isn't a norm. I'm just doing it for this. But yeah, with the Lennox-Gastaut, it's the type of epilepsy that it is resistant to medication. So we're still on the medication though, because I do believe it helps. And then we're now doing not now, we've been doing the keto diet since earlier this year. And I believe that helps as well. We're down to 10 carbs a day. So he gets max 10 carbs in his diet. That has been an entire journey as well, really making sure that everyone is on the same page when he's with, my parents, when he's with my husband's parents, when he's, with my siblings or just anyone. Like everyone needs to know what he can and can't have, and then really be carb counting. Oftentimes I just send foods so, I can ensure he has what he needs and, make it easier for other people to not have to figure it out either. But yeah, so we have the schizencephaly primary diagnosis, and that's the enlarged ventricles on the brain. And then we have the epilepsy, and kind of sub to that is the Lennox-Gastaut. So that's pretty much what TJ has. And with that, he does have developmental delays. So essentially, I just say IDD. Which is an intellectual disability. And yeah, he has all the therapies, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech. And he's had them for a while. And yeah, he's doing this thing, y'all. People definitely check in on him and ask. And this is another reason why I created the channel. So if you're not already following his Instagram, you can go follow his Instagram. That was the first thing I did, just to kind of be able to keep people in the loop. But I think it's just important to educate people. I think people see people with the various levels of disability, and there's this belief or idea, and even me to an extent, up until a certain age, when I began to educate myself more and familiarize myself more. I think people with intellectual and developmental delays are like an overshadowed people. And there are these ideas that, these people don't have full lives and, aren't happy. And, I get so many people that are like, oh my goodness, when we first, found out what was going on, or, even now, having him, people experiencing his seizures or like seeing it, and they feel bad for him. And it's like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. And it's like, baby, I don't need you to be sorry. You don't have to be sorry. He is a happy child. He is a blessed child. And I think, yeah, it's important that we start to shift our mindset a little bit on, people with varying levels of disability. By no means am I saying, it's not more difficult for someone else, or, people's feelings aren't valid when it comes to how they feel about, having a child with a disability, or, people with disabilities. But I do think shifting your mindset and your perspective is important. And that's why I'm here. And that's why we're here. Really just to shed light. Like, Tommy is an amazing child. He's a beautiful child. He's so smart. And he gets in his moods like any other child. But for the most part, I mean, his drive and desire to just do and be is beautiful. And as a parent, my job, and as a parent, especially with a child that has exceptional needs, is really just to support him and guide him. kind of go at his pace. I've never been one to, compare him to other kids. I have a little mom's group. We do stuff together, and I don't expect him to live up and do and be like any other child other than who he is. And I'm like that with every child, though, because you do have parents that feel like, oh, well, they're not doing this by a certain age, and they're not well, this kid is that age and they're not doing that. And listen, we all grow and move at our own pace. So it's one of those things where instead of focusing on what he can't do, let me focus on what he can do, and let me make sure that I support that. What are the things that he does enjoy, not the things that he doesn't enjoy, and let me support that. And by all means, of course, we're looking at milestones, as developmental milestones as kids get older. I get that. But at the same time, just giving yourself and giving your kids grace to just do their own thing in the time that they are going to do it, and just providing that support and the guidance and whatever it is that they need. So yeah, that's my stink about in a nutshell. We'll be here. I'll be trying to post videos for people, really, again, just for the knowledge, and the perspective shift. I hope the videos are enlightening. I hope, they do bring awareness, a level of awareness that people may not know or experience or have. And to just know that, these people are people, and they're living their best lives and doing all the things really that people say they can't do. Like, we just went to Mexico for his 3rd birthday, and people were like, what? He's going to Mexico? Yeah, absolutely. Because I love to travel. I'm a travel agent, and I love to travel, and my baby's going to travel with me. So if I'm going to celebrate, something, then why not celebrate my baby, and why not have him experience that for himself? So yeah, it's stuff like that. That's important. That's important for me, and important, I think, for him and his experience of just enjoying life and just being happy. So again, you guys, like, subscribe, follow along, tune in. We have a lot of good things coming. I'm currently in the process of detoxing him, because he has been experiencing a little increase in tantrums. But I do think a lot of that stems from his inability to communicate as well as he would like. So I am in the process of doing a heavy metal detox, and I want to do a parasite detox as well. He's always had this little bubble gut, his little stomach, just to be on the safe side, because I am a firm believer that what you put into your body and your microbiome and gut health does have a huge impact on your function, like everyday function. So just making sure he's in a good space. We do have an awesome care team for him, but I am in the process also of possibly looking into a functional medicine doctor, because again, we're on the medication, we're doing the keto diet, we're still seeing seizures. So, excuse me, I'm kind of in a place where it's okay. So what else can we try? What else can we look into? And I am big on the belief of natural homeopathic remedies as well. So we'll start moving into that, and I'll be sharing some of that stuff with you guys. I also did bank his cord blood, so I'm also in the process of possibly looking into what I can do with his cord blood, in essentially stem cell therapy. I have heard mixed things about it, but I am looking forward to it. So we will see. Just follow along, follow the journey. It's going to be exciting. It has been exciting already, but it's going to be exciting. And I hope you guys stay tuned. So if you guys ever have any questions, I'm a very transparent person for the most part. And yeah, you guys have any questions, or, if you're a parent that has a child that has exceptional needs, you're welcome to reach out. and we can chat, or I can answer any questions. If I can, I will. And like I said, just follow along, follow the videos, and, you know, pray for us. You know, that's the best thing that you can do, is cheer us on, pray for us, and just love on us like everybody else. Our village is amazing. We have awesome people in our lives. We have awesome care team. And God, like I said, he don't play about his people. So, you know, we're good all around, but, you know, the more prayer, the better, is always a good thing. So, yeah, I've got to finish my hair now, but I will see you guys later.